Hi there Booktube, it's Eleanor here and it's time again for Friday Reads. This week I read 3 comics and 2 books. 1 very good book, 1 okay book and 3 brilliant comics. But before I get into those, I want to do my Booktuber Shoutout of the week. This week I want to shout out David from the Booktuber. I heard about him from another Booktuber's Shoutout and he is brilliant. It's so refreshing to find another male Booktuber and also to find another male Booktuber who is a little bit older. David, I hope this doesn't offend you. You know, he's nearer my age, which is nice. It's refreshing, and he's just very witty. He's very interesting. He's got loads of interesting facts, and I just find him very engaging to watch. And I definitely think if you haven't checked out his channel, which is the Booktuber, and I shall have it linked down below, you really should, because he's a really great channel, and I think he's going to go far. Anyway, this is the roundup of the books that I have read this week. Firstly, I'm going to very briefly mention I Hate Fairyland. I read issues 1, 2 and 3 this week. If you want to know more about these, then you should check out my December wrap up where I highlight these as my favourite reads of the month. All 3 of these I gave 5 stars. I absolutely adored them and I can't wait to get to the next one, which comes out on the 20th of January. The story is about a little girl who wishes to go to Fairyland, but when she gets there it's not all as she seems and she wants to go home. She's told the only way to go home is to follow this map to this key. They reckon it'll probably take her a day. We skip 27 years later. She still hasn't got home. She's a bit of a brat. She swears, she drinks. She's a 27-ish-year-old stuck in a tiny child's body. She does a lot of killing and it's just brilliant fun and very witty, and I definitely recommend picking up this if you're not easily offended. This week I also picked up The Dark Days Club. This is an arc. It is by Alison Goodman, who wrote Aona, I believe. I haven't read them yet, but I definitely will. This comes out in January in the UK, and it is a story about a young girl who is sort of coming out. It's set in Regency London. When this was described to me, it made me think of Gail Carragher's Parasol Protectorate series, which I really enjoyed. A sort of comedy of manners, set in sort of a Regency period with some paranormal aspects to it, with the female protagonist sort of fighting that. And it was a good story. It got going a bit more towards the end. I felt it was just a little bit slow getting started, which sort of drew me out of it a little bit. For the first sort of 3 quarters there wasn't an awful lot going on. It was all sort of set up and build up, but it was an interesting one. I quite liked the idea. Lady Helen is a debutante and it becomes apparent that she has some special abilities, which means that she is of interest to the Dark Days Club, and I don't want to say too much more because I don't want to spoil it. It was good, not my favourite, but I gave it 3 stars. Next up was a buddy read with a couple of other booktubers, and that was Gold Fame Citrus by Claire Vay Watkins. This is a book I heard about from Mercedes at Mercy's Bookish Musings. She was reading it, I had it too, so we decided to read it together along with a couple of other booktubers. It's been really interesting to talk with them about this book. Basically, it's an adult dystopian story. It's set in a time where water is scarce, there is drought, there's not much water available, and in this particular area, which is the southwest, a lot of it's been evacuated. However, some people have stayed, and it's about their sort of lives and what's happening. We're following 2 main protagonists, Luz and Ray. They are lovers, partners. And I believe it feels like Luz is sort of in her late 20s maybe, or early 30s, and Ray may be a little bit older. And they one day come across a little baby who sort of nearly 2. In a circumstances they decide to take the baby because they believe they would be better, she would be better with them, and it sort of follows their story. I really enjoyed the writing in this. I felt it was quite cinematographic. It made me picture this as a movie in my head. It was very descriptive. The scenery and the sort of desolation and the deserty dryness really came across, and one of the other booktubers that I read this with actually said it made her feel thirsty reading this, and I can see where she was coming from. At the beginning it had a sort of Mad Max feel to it for me, where sort of there's this lawlessness, people are on drugs and drinking, and there's sort of a black market, and there's sort of a lawless feel about things. It all feels a little bit scary, especially if you were a woman on your own. It was a really captivating read, one that made me want to read on, made me continue reading and not wanting to put the book down. There were a couple of sections that I felt possibly weren't needed, that were sort of surplus to requirements, that sort of pulled you out of the story a little bit. And there was also no characters that I felt I really liked. And because of that, I couldn't give it 5 stars. But I did really enjoy this, and I gave it 4 stars. And I definitely recommend picking it up if you like adult dystopian books. People have compared it to Station 11, however I didn't like Station 11 that much, and I enjoyed this much more, and I know that somebody else who really enjoyed Station 11 hasn't enjoyed this as much. So it's like Station 11 in the fact that it's an adult dystopian novel, but it's not like Station 11 in any other way. But take from that what you will. I really enjoyed this. It's a beautiful cover, and I definitely think it's worth a read. And now briefly onto the books that I'm currently reading. I'm currently reading Always on My Mind, which is a Lucky Harbour novel by Jill Shalvis. I'm trying to get through the rest of these, so I am currently sort of part way through this one, and I'll be continuing this week. I'm reading Peter V. Brett's The Desert Spear, which is the second book in the Painted Man series, which I started last year, and I want to move on to the third book in the series with a couple of booktubers. We'll be buddy reading it next week, hopefully starting, or at some point in January. So I really need to get cracking with this one. And then also something which I'm hoping to do something with on my channel, but we will have to wait and see how it works out. I shall be looking through You, the Book of You, which is compiled by various people. It's a book which has a sort of challenge or tip or something to do every day of the year to sort of make a healthier, happier you. I'm going to be trying to do things in this. I'm going to try and follow it every day. I'm going to try and do sort of a weekly wrap up of how I've got on with some vlog style footage in there, and we shall see if I can do this for a whole year and whether it makes a healthier, happier me. So fingers crossed that this works out, but I will definitely be starting it this week and definitely reading the points and trying to make a roundup video on this. And I will be participating in the Winter Biannual Bibliothon, so I've got that starting on the 3rd, and if you haven't seen that video, my TBR video for that is up, so you can check out what books I'll be reading during that week too. Anyway, go and check out David from The Poptimist. I think you'll definitely like him, and I look forward to speaking to you all soon. Bye for now, Booktube.